Alright, it is that time again. League start. I'm going to be starting a Scion Ascendant, going Saboteur and Champion. The idea is cool down reduction. For skills, I'm going to be using Cyclone paired with Shockwave, getting that beautiful cooldown reduction, and General's Cry paired with whatever I want. I'm going to start with Bone Shatter to see if the Bone Shatter trauma stacks reflect to myself or whether they reflect to the minions. If they reflect to the minions, I'll probably switch it to something else like Earthquake or anything cool like that. But for now, I'm going to try Bone Shatter with the hopes that those Bone Shatter trauma stacks stack on me and therefore apply to my Shockwave. Whole purpose of this build is mostly to get cooldown reduction. Scion gets 15% on its tree, and I saw a bunch of other nodes that were leaked of other cooldowns, so I'm just going to try to stack a bunch of cooldowns so that Shockwave will trigger as much as possible, and General's Cry will also trigger as much as possible. Now let's go through the tree to explain what I'll be getting. Basic two-hander nodes over here, Life Leech, probably turn that off if I don't need it. Accuracy. Impale, I'll be doing the 10% chance to hit an enemy for all impales on that enemy to last an additional hit. This is going to be really strong with Shockwave because Shockwave is going to apply the impale, and then you're going to hit a lot with Cyclone. And the Cyclone's going to hit like 5 times for every one Shockwave, so it's possible for that Cyclone to refresh a giant Shockwave impale when it hits. So I think that's going to be a great combination. Now moving on into here, obviously the 10% more maximum physical damage is just great, especially because I'm going to be using the Mace of Unpronounceable Maceness. And simply because I'm getting more cooldown reduction, I will be grabbing these guard skills, 20% cooldown reduction for the guard skills. So I'm going to be popping guards all day long, and this is going to remove Corrupting Blood, and it's going to remove Bleeding. On top of being able to remove Corrupting Blood and Bleeding, I'm grabbing the new Fortify Mastery node. 2% reduced duration of ailments per fortification stack. And with the champion, I'll have 20, because melee hits have a 50% chance to fortify, giving me 20 fortify stacks. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So that's going to be 52% reduced duration of ailments. That's pretty good. Now I can find other ways to get more reduced ailments, and that's going to be pretty slick. I'm going to be going low life, which means I'm going to be grabbing this for +1 to all maximum elemental resistances while you have life and mana reserved. Going to pump up my resistances. I would go here to get this +1 here, but I'm getting that +1 over here instead. So that's be 1, 2, 3, 4 to all, and then 5 for cold and 5 for fire. I might switch cold over to lightning, but either way, that's not important. Now, they used to have this node here, which contained cooldown reduction, but they modified it and moved it around. Now the cooldown reduction nodes are here for these two, and then up here for these 4. So I'm getting all the Warcry cooldown reduction nodes, plus the 15% from the Sabo Scion passive, and hopefully that's going to allow General's Cry to hit enough without the shield, because most people do the General's Cry build. They use that General's Cry shield, but the shield is usually quite pricey. Now also, I built this build before they even released the gem notes, but they also buffed General's Cry to apply more cooldown on the General's Cry node. Now my items, I just have fillers in here just to fill it up. I will probably be using the Corpse Walker. I have no clue on the price of the Corpse Walker. I never used them before. Could be expensive, could not be expensive, but it does trigger level 20 Corpse Walk when equipped. And I do believe my cooldown reduction will allow it to drop more bodies, which will be great. And everything else is just kind of replaceable. Eventually I'll be using this, and eventually I'll be using this. But this mace was pretty expensive last league. I was able to get it really early for 20C, then it shot way up in price, and I think I bought it for 20C and then ended up selling it for like 6 divines, and then it dropped back down. So if I can get this early on cheap, I'll be doing that. If not, I'll be probably doing the Conqueror's Rage or just a yellow. Now, if you look at my damage numbers here, it's going to be 1.2 million on a double 6-link. Obviously, I'm not going to have a double 6-link early on. Probably planning on getting a 5-link on the weapon and then either doing the Bringer of Rain helmet and then, or just a basic 6-link, like a corrupted 6-link or something like that to get my 6-links out. Now the damage is interesting because you have Shockwave being your most damage, then Impale, then Bone Shatter, and then little old Cyclone down here. Cyclone ain't gonna do jack diddly for damage. It's just there to apply the shockwaves and to move around while I am doing General's Cry. Okay, so at the beginning, obviously I won't have this, so let's put on that mace and you'll watch my damage plummet. But in the starting zone, obviously I won't be needing crit, I won't be needing accuracy with that mace nearly as much. So I'll be able to pump down a lot, and then I'll be starting probably like this as such. So that would be my start. Pathing down. I originally was going to path right to here and get that adrenaline gains. You gain adrenaline for 1 second when you change stance. Whoever decided to throw that in the game was a crackhead, because that is obviously too powerful. Anyone who has ever played this game knows that that was going to be way too powerful, and it obviously was. So they removed it and added some useless thing that I will not be using. Okay, I think that is the league start. I have no clue if it's going to work. But the good thing about this league start, if my idea doesn't work and it's not pumping out enough damage towards red maps, I can just buy the General Cry shield, which I think reduces the cooldown for General's Cry by 50%, get the Paradoxica, and just transform this right into the standard General's Cry build, farm up currency until I get my next build, which I believe will be some type of Saboteur. Hopefully this works out. And as I'm leveling, I'm probably just going to use Sunder. Maybe Sunder. Yeah, and for General's Cry, let's go back. And let's reopen this so I have it all. If we go to skills and we change what's in General's Cry, bump, bump, bump. Let's, instead of Bone Shatter, let's do, oh man, I've switched it to Flame Link. No one's going to use a link. There's not a single person who's going to use a link. Let's do Sunder. If I put Sunder in here instead of Bone Shatter, and obviously I don't know what gems are going to be best. Sunder pumped up that damage quite a bit. Sunder will be pretty cool in there. Or we have Earthquake, which isn't as much damage, but it's way more AoE. Earthquake will be slamming down, and with the cooldown reduction, the secondary explosion of Earthquake is going to trigger more. Or we also, is it Size? I don't know what it's called. Earth Shatter. I can even do Earth Shatter. And Earth Shatter is going to be throwing those tendrils out and exploding. Should be pretty good. There's plenty of stuff I can do with there. Heavy Strike doesn't work very well. I was kind of thinking of Heavy Strike, but nah, I don't think it'll work. I think it works pretty well with channeling skills, and the only channeling skill I can use is the lightning one, Charge Dash. So I might give that a shot. And obviously, I have all my skill gems at level 18, just to give myself a slightly more realistic variant. If I pump them up to 20, the damage goes up a bit. And with the Conquerors, I was using increased critical strikes, so I can grab another one. But let's say I get this mace and I'm only get it to 5-link, right? So we only get that mace to 5-link, and then let's go to the General's Cry. General Cry also 5-link, so let's get rid of increased critical strikes. So even on a 5-link, I'm up in the 1 million damage range, I'm pretty sure. And I think the General's Cry is actually lower than it actually will be. I think the damage will be higher on General's Cry. I don't think it calculates properly, but maybe that's only when you're using the channeling. It's not Reeve, it's Blade Flurry I think they use with it. I think the damage calculations when you're using Blade Flurry are way lower. So this is my full hipster starter. And the only reason I'm doing it is I absolutely love cooldown reduction. It's my favorite thing of Diablo 3. The fact that you can get so much cooldown reduction and make your skills just able to pop after pop after pop. It's extremely fun. I'm so excited they added this cooldown reduction rate in there as the Saboteur's passive. It's super good. Now, the synergies are actually pretty strong. You got 30% increased area of effect, which is going to work for the Cyclone. It's going to work for the Shockwave. It's going to work for Bone Shatter. It's going to work for General's Cry. That is going to apply to all of those. The cooldown reduction is going to apply to all of them except for Cyclone. But again, Cyclone's just there to pop Shockwave. Hits deal 15% chance. Hits have 15% chance to deal 50% more area. That's going to apply to all of them. 25% chance to blind. Great. It's going to apply for everything. So every one of those is fully capitalized on this setup. And then for the champion, every one of these is fully capitalized. Melee hits have a 50% chance to fortify. Excellent. That's free for source to fortify. Enemies taunted by you take 10% increased damage, 100% chance to taunt on hit. So I'm going to be taunting people with those shockwaves before they even get close to me, hopefully, or with the General's Cry. So they're going to be taunted. They're going to take 10% increased damage. Very good. 15% increased effect of auras. Very nice. Your hits permanently intimidate enemies that are on full life. So I'm going to be hitting people on full life. They're going to be intimidated. So all of this just seems to synergize super well. I was thinking about doing the Pathfinder, but I just don't like the Pathfinder nodes that much. 25% chance to not consume a flash charge. That's okay. Flash charge gains 3 charges every 3 seconds. That's all right. Remove bleed when you have a flash. That's great. Attack speed does nothing for this build, really. And movement speed, always good. But attack speed, because attack speed really doesn't apply. Because with a General Cry, summons are going to spawn, attack one time, and then despawn. So they don't need more attack speed. Shockwave doesn't need more attack speed. The only thing attack speed is going to buff up is my Cyclone damage. And as we saw, my Cyclone damage isn't doing anything. So that's the build. I was going to go full Saboteur, but there's a node in here that's a dead node. 40% increased critical strike multiplier for burning, increased critical strike chance for shocked, and then damage penetrates 10% of elemental damage. So in order to do this Cyclone, Shockwave, General Cry build, I would have to convert all the damage to an element, not an ailment. Convert all the damage to an element, and then hit with all 3. And then, it was just super awkward. Doesn't synergize well. And then this one, triggered spells, trigger on the trigger bot. So the Shockwave won't trigger on the trigger bots. If the Shockwaves would trigger on the trigger bots, I would totally be doing a Saboteur. But the Shockwaves won't trigger on the trigger bots. But if the Shockwaves would, a Shockwave Saboteur, totally in vogue. Obviously, this works well, this one works well, and this one works extremely well. Really wanted to do the cooldown regeneration rate. Now, they had a mace. I don't think it's in the game anymore. I searched POE Ninja for last league, and it wasn't there. It's the Geoffrey's mace of magical. I think it's Geoffrey's devotion. And when you hit with it, it shoots out projectiles of a random element. And that would have been incredible, because that skill would, in fact, trigger on the trigger bots. But I don't think it's in the game anymore. If it is still in the game, and I get that, that will be my build number 2. All right, guys. I'm wicked hyped. Hopefully everyone can sleep. I know I won't. Check you later.